Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. My name is Caroline Heward and I'm known as the Harley Street Stress Expert. And I'm an expert presenter in today's topic. This show is Talking Heads and I'm an expert presenter in today's topic, which is, does stress change the way that you eat? Let's begin. Okay, I'd like to start off this time with you with a quote, as I usually do. And this quote is by Leonard Nimoy. He's commonly known and more famously known as Dr. Spock from the famous series Star Trek. So he says, there are studies that tell us that stress and lack of self-image, lack of self-esteem, severe dieting, binge dieting, and binge eating can also be very damaging to a body and bring on various kinds of abnormalities. This is Dr. Spock, aka Leonard Nimoy. So I want to begin by really saying that this is setting the scene for a much wider topic than does stress change the way that you eat. This is a much bigger and much more comprehensive topic that I want to really delve into in a big way today. So did you know, and this is just something to lighten the mood a little bit, stressed is dessert spelt backwards. Do you know, I didn't find this out until about 6 months ago, and it absolutely made me howl. I just thought, gosh, I never ever knew that. Stress, if you look at it, is desserts. Just look at the word stressed, and if you take it backwards, it's desserts spelt backwards. So it's no wonder that some of us, when we're stressed, reach out for desserts, because it is in our subconscious. It is a play on words. Where did the word stress come from? And the fact that dessert spelt backwards is stressed. I found this really amusing and at the same time kind of scary, because it does move us, many of us, to eat desserts, something sweet, reaching out for something to taste and feel comfortable in the eating. And that's why there's a picture of an old-fashioned housewife with a cake, because that's what we tend to, not all of us, but we tend to, in the main, reach for something sweet. So what is emotional eating? And so in the picture at the top of this page, it is somebody clearly enjoying an experience of what they're eating and clearly in an exceptional state of emotional pleasure. So what is emotional eating? Why do we do it? And how come it's a thing? So let me share with you what happens when we're stressed. When we're stressed, our emotional center kicks in, and our emotions and feelings reside in the belly, below the belly button. This is also where the sexual energy resides, and this is also where our pleasure zone is, our being in the zone, our movement towards things that we desire to do. So what happens when we're stressed is that it shuts down the feelings and emotions, and it shuts down the pleasure zone of our sensitivity to experience pleasure. And so the body is reaching out for something to feel pleasurable, something to feel in control. So there's two centers, the two chakra centers that are responsive here. And that is the solar plexus, which is responsible for our self-esteem, our control or no control in a situation. It's responsible also for our power and our fire in terms of our control in a situation or no control. So when we're not feeling in control of a situation, the solar plexus is in the upper belly, above the belly button, in the upper rib cage. This is where problems such as eating disorders reside. This is also known as your abdominal brain. So when you don't cry, for instance, the stomach, your abdominal brain will cry for you. So this is where you can have symptoms of diarrhea or constipation, depending on where your body is displaying the symptom and how it's responding. And really, the diarrhea is also constipation, because literally when you are suffering with the irritable bowel syndrome in particular, there is a running of feces, which is actually still blocked. So it is constipation, just a different form of it. And so essentially, when the body is responding in that way, it is because it is triggered. It is responding to things that aren't happening and not comfortable for you. And I remember once I went to a doctor when I was diagnosed a very long time ago, when I was 27, with irritable bowel syndrome. And I was very much of the school of thought that I wasn't going to take any medication, because I didn't believe in taking pharmaceutical medication. And I said I wanted to understand what was wrong so I could treat the cause rather than the symptoms, which is what I was seeing the pharmaceutical industry does, treat symptoms rather than why. And essentially, what he said really blew me away. And I'm going to share that with you today. He said, if you don't cry, your stomach cries for you. So if you don't express your emotion, your body, your stomach expresses it for you. How many times have we felt excited and we have that butterfly feeling? That is in the solar plexus. How many times have we felt nervous and we've got that same feeling in the upper abdomen, in the solar plexus? And how many times have we said, I feel that in my water? Water is the element of the sexual chakra, which creates our flow and our movement in life and our desire and our pleasure. And so when we eat something for pleasure, we are eating to satisfy, we're feeling good. And so emotional eating is a responsive reaction, because we're not feeling good and we're trying to, in a roundabout way, get that feeling good experience, which is the serotonin experience. And more about that a little later. But essentially what we've got here in these pictures is somebody having an experience of food, because taste is the sensory for food. Taste is the sensory that's in the sexual chakra, the sacral chakra, which is the second chakra. And this is where our movement, our pleasure is. And so when we taste and we feel that sensory of pleasure on our taste buds, we immediately feel in control and we get a kick in of serotonin, that feel good pleasure experience. And so when we're feeling stressed, that serotonin that we gives us that intensive taste and pleasure experience disappears. And instead, we get caught up with a shutdown of feelings and emotions and a shutdown of experiences that we feel that are good for us. So stress literally numbs our sensory experiences. And then we go into our root chakra, into the saboteur of the root chakra, which is fear. And we go into overdrive of survival. So this is a really big deal. What is emotional eating? Well, we're emotionally eating to find some pleasure in a stressful situation. So does stress make it hard to eat? Well, there's the opposite side of the cortisol being in the body, that sometimes, and it depends on, we're all individuals, we're all human, and sometimes people get a reduction in their appetite. They don't feel like eating. And so they're binning food. They'll have a nice plate of food in front of them that normally they would enjoy, but they don't feel hungry. The sensitivity of the pleasure of the taste buds, it's gone. It's numbed. And that is because when we're stressed, the cortisol introduces a large amount of acid in the body. And that acid is really detrimental. And for some people, it can actually literally put you off your appetite so that you don't feel hungry. There are no hunger experiences. In fact, there is nothing at all. And when I was very young, I used to be like that. If I was stressed or upset, I lost my appetite. And this is a phrase, a cliche that some people say, I have no appetite anymore for this, because they're feeling upset or they're feeling stressed. Or some people go into the opposite side of that, where they are feeding their hunger, they're actually feeding their appetite. And so they are feeding their pain, and they will comfort eat. That's where that expression comes from. They will comfort eat their way through the stress. Whereas some people reduce their appetite to such a point that the salivary glands stop working and they don't feel hungry. They don't feel the sensitivity of pleasure because everything has been numbed. And I certainly, when I was younger, used to be like this. I had lost my appetite. And I used to know people that had an appetite. They would eat cakes and all sorts of desserts and sweet things, when they were stressed and feeling out of control. Whereas I would go the opposite way. So I lost weight when I was stressed. And now I comfort eat. Now I reach out for a chocolate bar. But more lately, I've been indulging on a nutritional peanut bar, pecan and almonds, which I think is a lot more healthier. But, I'm still, when I'm stressed, reaching out for something that's sweet, something that fills the gap. So when you're stressed, you can either go one way by not having an appetite and not feeling hungry, and the salivary glands just not feeling comfortable to eat, which is where you can lose weight when you're stressed, and it will have an effect on the body and on the nutrients that you're feeding to the body, because when the body is stressed and it's not getting the right nutrients, it will start to shut down various organs, and various organs won't work. So this, does stress change the way that you eat, is a really, really big topic. It's so big that it's much more comprehensive than what I can actually look at today. But this is where bulimia comes from. This is where anorexia comes from, where they're much more advanced disorders on, does stress change the way that you eat? So how does increased cortisol affect you? So when we're stressed, what happens, the body produces an increased amount of cortisol in the system. And cortisol by its very nature, is very, very high in acid and will cause a highly acidic environment in your body, in your gut, lower and upper abdomen. And when this higher acid gets into the body, for some people, where they're not controlling it or they're trying to control it in some way, it will come up as heartburn. And that heartburn, sometimes people will say, oh, I've just got a bit of acid. And what it is, it's the acid from the upper abdomen coming up the body and coming into the chest area and up into the throat, which is why that it can be like a burning sensation, which is not very nice. And so when people are physically vomiting, physically sick, this is literally regurgitating contents of the lower abdomen and the upper abdomen, which is where the digestive system is. So it's not healthy because it's not meant to be there. And so when this happens, this actually creates a burn sensation in the lung area and the chest area into the throat, which can be very, very uncomfortable. I've known of people continually take antacid tablets to calm down the acid. If they only knew the reason that acid is coming up is because they are stressed and is totally related to the unexpressed stress that they're not handling. Cortisol levels are good in some ways if they're low and if they're moderate, but when they get high, this is where it can cause problems in the body. And too much acidicness in the body will have all sorts of consultations in terms of physical manifestations in the body. So this is where all sorts of challenges such as diverticulosis can come from, because diverticulosis is coming from a very acidic environment where the body is just not functioning as it should function in it when it's normal. So it's really not great if the increase of cortisol levels are impacting your body. Now, we can manage this by managing our stress and managing how we respond to stress and what we do, having a game plan in terms of not letting it get on top of us. It's really, really important to manage the emotions that we don't feel. When we push them down and we go into comfort eating or not eating, this has a detrimental effect on the cortisol. It also dampens down the serotonin in the body that is the feel good, the chemical in the body that naturally is created when we feel really pleasurable and we feel really high. And food gives us that experience of pleasure. If you look at a very young child, they will be full of serotonin, running around and playing and laughing and really feeling very, very safe, very secure, very comfortable, and not feeling stressed. And that is because they're not running on high levels of cortisol. This is the body's natural defense response mechanism to protect you. And in olden times, this was when there was a saber-toothed tiger, with really, really big, long fangs to come and eat you, would be preying on you, that it would put you into survival fear so that you could protect yourself. But hey, we haven't got that saber-toothed tiger, that the body is still responding when we are stressed, as if that saber-toothed tiger is right behind you and about to bite you. And this is why it's really important to understand how, if we're not managing our stress, what's happening in the body. And when you are running on high levels of cortisol in the body, what will happen is that you are running on your adrenaline. Now, the adrenaline gland is in the root chakra of the body, which is where the tail end of the spine meets the genital area. And this is where our foundations are and our stability. And if we're not feeling stable, the saboteur of the root chakra is fear. And if we're not feeling stable, we'll be in fear. And then that lowers our immune system. So can you see that when you're stressed, it has a knock-on effect at various levels in the chakra system and in the endocrine system? The endocrine system relates directly onto the physiology of where the chakras are situated. And so it is really, really important to have a why. Why are you reaching out for that chocolate bar? Why are you reaching out or not reaching out for food? Why is it that you've gone off your feed where it can cause detrimental effects in your body? So here's some foods to absolutely avoid when you are stressed. The thing that we will mainly do, and it is our culture, our Western culture, Western society of today, that we reach out for a coffee fix. And when we reach out for the coffee, it has a very strong addictive nature, and that addictive complex in it is caffeine. And the caffeine gives us a natural hit, a really big high. And that high makes us feel good. Then there is a massive trough when we have drunk that coffee. And so for the coffee addicts, and I have to say this because we can become addicted to having that morning coffee, to needing that coffee fix 3 or 4 times a day, because it gives us a perk in the adrenaline gland. And that perk will kick in and affect the adrenals, giving us a high and also following with a massive trough too. And so my recommendation is to keep, if you are a coffee person, not to say don't drink it, be aware and keep your coffee contained to the minimum amounts, and watch if you do reach out for that coffee to choose something different. Also, fizzy drinks like Coca-Cola and Pepsi, all the carbonated drinks are filled with a saccharin, which are really very unhealthy for you and can cause an overload of stress and cortisol, because you're not feeding your system, you're actually stressing your system in a much bigger way with these types of drinks. So be aware. To be aware is the first place to resolve and to move into a better solution. To reduce and stay away from saturated fats. The saturated fats are going to cause you so much harm. The deep fried fats are trans fats, which are very harmful to the body. You know, anything deep fried, like in the takeaways, the chicken takeaways, which we tend to reach out for these takeaway foods because there's something in there that makes us feel that pleasurable experience. And that is because the trans fats, like the margarines and the very heavy, loaded, fatty foods, give us some feeling. It gives us some feeling of pleasure. So deep fried chips, for instance, burgers, all that very fast type food is the fast track of depriving your system and causing a shutdown of your organs, actually working in prolonged usage of reaching out for those very high saturated fatty foods. Sugary foods such as cakes, biscuits, things that chocolate bars, anything that has that sugar rush, sort of jelly babies, sort of all the sweetie type things, Smarties, all the things that the children will reach for will actually send them over the edge. So avoiding sugary foods is absolutely key to manage your stress. And anything processed, Something that our today's society does is we reach out. We really do reach out for that processed food that comes in a box that we just stick in the microwave. I don't even own a microwave because I don't want to be party to those types of foods, but they're everywhere. And essentially anything that's processed in a can or in a ready-made meal will have high levels of salt and high levels of sugar, which are really very unhealthy for us. We were never meant to take in that amount of sugar and salt. And the reason those amounts are very high in our processed foods is because how else can they keep them on the shelf with that long shelf life? And what other things have been added to that mix to keep the long shelf life in the cupboard, in the fridge? So be careful and avoid processed foods because they won't give you the work that you need to survive on in terms of your nutrition and keeping going when you are stressed. So let's look at what would be good to eat when you're stressed. Well, salmon, as long as it's not farm salmon, but salmon is really good because it has high EPA and DHA levels, which are the fatty acids that our body naturally requires. And it gets depleted. Our EPA and DHA get depleted when we're not eating. When we're stressed, it actually almost is like a cat man, and it literally eats up our EPA and DHA fatty acids that are normally produced. And so any oily fish will give us more EPA and DHA. And things like sardines will also be very high, and mackerel will be really high. Things like turmeric is an absolutely incredible seasoning and herb for lowering our acidity. So if anybody's suffering with something like arthritis, for instance, which is a very severe pain created from a high acid in the body, turmeric can actually lower the acidity rate in the body and therefore reduce the pain, which is quite incredible when you know these things, when you understand what to have instead of what we normally might reach out for. Herbal teas is an incredible alternative to reaching out for that huge caffeine fix. Things like chamomile tea will calm down the nervous system and will be extremely relaxing in terms of the stress that you're experiencing in the body, and will calm down the mind. So chamomile, although it doesn't taste very wonderful, I'm not a chamomile lover, but it is one of those really, really good herbal teas that has that incredible calming facility. Green tea is a diuretic, and green tea will literally flush out any toxins in the body. And I'd also recommend drinking lots of water when you're stressed, because usually when we think that we're hungry, we're actually thirsty, because our body is 60 to 80 parts water, depending on research that you read. And so if you drink a couple of glasses of water, you might find that you're not hungry, but you were actually thirsty. And so herbal teas is a wonderful way of feeding that thirst, as well as getting some really lovely nutrients in your body as well. And now, as opposed to like 20 years ago, there are many different fruit flavored teas that make it much more palatable, to have the herbal teas. And if you're not keen on the herbal tea as it stands, putting a teaspoonful of honey will sweeten the taste. And actually that's a natural sugar, which will be easier on the digestive system than taking in the normal raw cane sugar. And green vegetables. You remember Popeye? When I was a child, Popeye, when he needed his strength, he would down some spinach mixture, and then he would sort of be really strong and bold, and he'd be able to come out of whatever the situation he was in. And so spinach is really, really good. broccoli, anything that's green and leafy, So when you're looking for good foods, look at what's in the ground. What do we grow as fresh? So fresh vegetables that's rooted, when you feed your system with these kinds of foods, it actually is more substantial to your system and it fills you up. Whereas if you've had a burger, for instance, or a pizza, because there are so many additives and salts and sugars in there, you will have that feeling of feeling full at the time of eating and then feeling hungry in a very short time afterwards. And so when you fill up on good foods, on nutritionally contented foods, you will feel different and you will feel much more, your stomach will feel much more like it's complete, and you won't feel that hunger that you normally feel when you've eaten takeaway or junk food. So these are very simple ways that when you're stressed, fill your fridge with nice things rather than picking up the phone and ordering that takeaway or visiting your normal takeaway. If you have a takeaway as a treat now and again, it's okay. It's not that it's not okay. It's about being in moderation. At the times that you're really stressed, it's good to have good stuff around you. So when you reach into the fridge has the right kind of things. Or when you reach into your cupboard has the right kinds of foods for you to eat so that you nourish your body rather than feeding it with more cortisol, more salts and more sugars that will strain the body and give you a higher level of stress and cortisol. So here's a quote from Haley Hobson. Food is medicine, and the right kind of relationship food can make a positive impact on your health. Haley Hobson. Let me say that again, because this is really what I've been saying throughout this, that food is a medicine, and the right kind of relationship with food can make a positive impact on your health. So let's just unpack that a little bit. If we're reaching out for food because it makes us feel good, and this is the thing when we're stressed, that's what we're doing. If we are on the scale of eating for comfort, if we are reaching out, then it's much healthier, much better for you to have a nice, healthy alternative to the food that will be having a severe impact on your health. And it is a medicine to have that kind of attitude with food. So I have replaced my Twirl chocolate bar with and the bar is called Kind, which I thought was amazing because that's exactly what it's doing. It's kind to my system. And I have eaten a couple of Kind nutty bars, but I'm actually feeling healthier because when I've been stressed, I've reached out for those. We're all human and we're having a human experience. And it is important to understand the relationship that we have between food and when we are stressed. Because just as much as we may eat for comfort, just as much as we might not eat, still the body is having a challenge, even if you don't eat, because the body needs the nourishment and needs the right nutrients. So if you're depriving your body of the right nutrition and the right nutrients of not eating, what happens is when you don't eat, your body will feel like it's starving. And so when you do eat something, it will hold on for dear life of the food that you've ingested, because it doesn't know when it's next going to be fed. And so it holds onto it and it actually makes it into a fat and creates a sugar level out of it. So none of it is very healthy for you. And so my invitation is to treat food as your medicine. Every time you eat is an opportunity to nourish your body. Every single time you eat. So whatever you're choosing, choose the nicer things, excuse me, the better things for your body. Blueberries are an exceptionally incredible food to feed your body. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your interest. Please subscribe to USA Global TV and Radio. You can find all of our episodes under the playlist Talking Heads 2023, and last year's Talking Heads under my name, Caroline Heward, Talking Heads 2022. If you feel you need my help, please do reach out to me. I am more than happy to offer you a free 30-minute consultation, either on Zoom, Skype, or if you're camera shy, reach out to me by phone on +44 if you're international, 0 if you're local, 7523 120 189. I offer a free, no obligation consultation. I am here to help you, and I am here to hear what's happening and what's not working. In awareness, that's right, in awareness, we can move through the stress that you feel into a place of empowerment. And it's only when you have insight, awareness, and understanding that you can change the way that you are responding when you are stressed. Thank you so much for giving me your time, your patience, and having the patience to sit through this, because it hasn't been an easy topic. And I applaud you for listening, because there is help, and I look forward to helping you further. Namaste.